And if you could get us going live.
And we should be streaming.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Then it is, I've got 7:06 and we will call the meeting to order. And Kathy, can you please do a roll call?
Mayor Bean,
Here.
Councilmember Chapman,
Here from home.
Councilmember Furby, Councilmember Scanlon,
Here.
Councilmember Schook.
All right. Thank you. At this time, we will open it up for public comment. If there is anyone on Zoom that would like to speak, I think you can use the raise your hand feature and then you can speak. You have 5 minutes per person. And again, if there is anyone on Zoom who would like to provide public comment, if you use the raise your hand feature, you can go ahead and have 5 minutes to speak.
Jim, are you seeing anybody raising?
I am not seeing any hands go up.
All right, last call then for public comment. If there's none, then we will close public comment.
No hands, Your Honor.
All right, moving on to item number 4 is approval of the agenda.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
Just one comment, I guess, we don't have the resolution ready, so that's item number.
So item number 9 will
9.
not be presented.
Oh, okay.
Then we'll make the motion to approve the agenda as corrected.
Okay.
With
Still
removing.
support.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have minutes of the previous meeting and approval of disbursements.
Your Honor, we'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I did. All right, sorry. Thank you, Stu. We'll come back to number 6 in a minute. Agenda comment. Back to the public on Zoom. If anyone would like to make agenda comment, same as before, raise your hand and you'll have 3 minutes to speak on the agenda item.
I see no hands, Your Honor.
No hands? All right. Last chance for agenda comment. Going once, going twice. And we will close agenda comment. Thank you, Stu, for pointing that out. Back to number 6, the consent agenda.
Motion stands, Your Honor.
Okay. And that was seconded already?
Yep. Support, yeah.
Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Moving on to number 7, the monthly financial statement report. Jim, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. In your packet, you have the financial statements for the period ended January 31st, 2021. As of that date, the city's pooled cash fund had a balance of $5,532,178. Of that, the general fund share of pooled cash was $872,893. General fund had revenues of $4,461, expenses of $290,387, resulting in a fund balance of $493,563. That probably sounds a little bit low, and it is for 2 reasons. One, we're still waiting on our last revenue sharing payment for 2020, which usually comes in February. So we'll be expecting that shortly. And it should be for at least about 160,000. And then we went through a software conversion this year, and we're still, that first year cycle of doing a software conversion, you're going to keep running into new issues. And we ran into just a small issue that we were able to resolve today. So the tax money that we've collected for January will be posted in February rather than January. So just a little bit of a timing issue there. But I just wanted to let you know that it does look low because our tax money hasn't been moved over.
Jim, before you
Yeah.
move on, did you say what the revenue sharing was? Did you have a figure?
It should be at least 160,000, I believe, in that ballpark. So, so that usually comes in February for our November and December revenue sharing payment. So moving on, if there are no other questions, the major street fund share pooled cash was $699,004. There were revenues of $44,975, expenses of $10,999, resulting in a net income of $33,976 and a fund balance of $699,004. Local street share pooled cash was $105,002. Local street had revenues of $18,628, expenses of $5,955, resulting in net income of $12,672 and a fund balance of $105,230. The garbage fund share pooled cash was $149,337. Garbage fund had revenues of $57,602, expenses of $10,667, resulting in net income of $46,935 and a fund balance of $279,719. Public improvement fund share pooled cash was $497,082. Public improvement fund revenues were zero. Again, we didn't move over the tax money in January. That issue was resolved today. Expenses of $63,728, resulting in a net loss for the month of $63,728 and a fund balance of $437,462. Sewer fund share of pooled cash was $1,518,786. Revenues at $128,027. Expenses of $15,129, resulting in net income of $112,897 and a fund balance of $10,049,650, of which $888,434 was unrestricted. The water fund share of pooled cash was $1,308,270,000. Water fund had revenues of $180,533, expenses of $24,028, resulting in net income of $156,505 and a fund balance of $8,951,094, of which $219,283 was negatively unrestricted.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we accept the financial report as presented.
I'll support that.
Right? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, moving on to number 8 is the public hearing for the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for the kayak launches on the shore of Teal Lake. So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. It is 7:15. Is there anyone who is speaking to this or?
I can speak briefly to it, just to make sure everybody understands the background of it. We have agreed with the City of Negaunee in principle to support the Rotary Club, the Ishpeming Rotary Club, in securing some boat dock launches at both ends of Teal Lake. And so they're not strictly kayak launches. They're made primarily to be kayak launches, but on the Teal Lake and on the Negaunee end, they actually are a little bit bigger, so they can get those 3 or 4 man skiffs that, row together in unison. And then at our end would be smaller kayaks, paddle boards, things like that. It's a joint adventure. The city of Ishpeming has volunteered to step in and apply as one application for both ends of the lake. The intent is that the Rotary Club is going to seek the predominance of the matched money. And then we're going after a couple of grants, and hopefully one of them offers us, or both of them offers us a deal, and we can choose the better of the 2 deals. But total project cost is around 152, 155 K, with our contribution from this city and the city from Negaunee both committing only 5,000 of that. The Rotary Club and others would be the match in addition to our 10,000, and then the rest would be grants. So that's the proposal. There's some work being done on both ends of town. So what we do has to be followed up by Negaunee, and then in the end, there's also an interlocal agreement. It's similar to what we've done with the senior center, like the maintenance agreement, that there's long-term care and maintenance of the equipment that gets installed. Since we are the applicants, we are the holder of all things. And so having an interlocal so that Negaunee can take care of the Negaunee and Ishpeming takes care of the Ishpeming end is an important piece that will come as part of the package, but is not necessary right now. So right now we want to make sure that everybody's on board and that there's no opposition at this point. We were hoping that we'd be able to follow this up with a resolution. That document is still in waiting as we're refining some numbers. So next month we'll have that resolution, assuming no opposition.
Well, I'll say they had an example of that at the Rotary Club fundraiser last year. I think Stu, you were there and you probably saw it. And I think Jason was there also.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I would hope that nobody's opposed to that, but
There might be, I mean, our intent is to make it as ADA compliant as possible. There's some universal code stuff that would be, one of the things is you have to have a restroom that's ADA compliant within a certain distance of the dock. The access to the dock is going to be handicap accessible. So there'll be some sidewalk that has to be laid out, not much. And then where the dock comes to that sidewalk, then you can roll right up on the sidewalk. We don't have the ADA bathroom at our end. So we propose that the closest is the one up at the top of the hill. You have to drive past it to get to the boat launch, but it doesn't fall within the distance requirements to meet the universal code. It still has a ADA bathroom, but it doesn't have that universal category. So we score a little bit lower for that perspective, but we don't have to build a separate washroom facility near the launch. So, and then I guess just see if anybody has raised hands out in public land and see if anybody out there to talk about it.
Jim, is there anyone on to talk about it?
So far, Your Honor, I've not seen any hands go up to speak to the subject.
Looks like there might be something in chat.
Yeah.
Can you check that chat and see if there's some comment?
I've responded to the chat.
Okay.
It was just a question on who was speaking.
Okay. Then I guess we'll do a last call for any public input, comment on the public hearing. Last call. And if there is none, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, 7:20. Then moving on, we have removed number 9 from the agenda. So we're on to number 10, special event applications. Ishpeming Ski Club, which I understand the dates have been moved on that. From the 5th to the 7th to the 13th and the 14th. Negaunee, Ishpeming Chamber of Commerce, West End Winter Wonderland, March 13th, and NMU University of Wisconsin Green Bay ski race on February 6th.
Your Honor, we want to take,
Yep, sorry. I latched right onto the 5. The first one is not, the Ishpeming Ski Club is not changing the date. The NMU Wisconsin ski date is the one that's changing.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Are we taking these one at a time? I mean, if so, I'd make a motion to accept the special event application A for the Ishpeming Ski Club for their annual tournament. They're put forth a pretty good COVID plan, and I think we should support the 134th annual.
Support. Under discussion, if I might,
Yes.
we talked about how we were gonna look at these as far as mitigation and
Mm-hmm.
are we still, is that your intention?
Yes, so, that COVID, spreadsheet that,
Jim, can you bring up the COVID assessment matrix, please?
oh, good.
Yes, one moment.
And maybe if you could make it just a hair larger, maybe?
Yeah. So this is a continuation of the, yes, this is the continuation of the spreadsheet that I created and we looked at briefly at the last meeting. And so what I did was I actually went through and put some weights to the colors. So the colors on the left are the risks. So you've got red, orange, and yellow for high, medium, and low risks. The red are scored at 5 points apiece. The orange are scored at 3, and the yellow are scored at 2. So then it gives you a risk total. And then the mitigations are all -2. So you have a mitigation total, and then it gives you a total score further on the right there. So, so that would give you an idea kind of how mitigations might offset the risks. When I was looking at this, I put in all of the events that I'm aware that have happened in some shape or form within the city since basically since we came out of the official stay-at-home order, with the 4th of July kind of being the first event that was canceled. And so I went through and kind of scored them how I, thought that they would have ranked, and then looked at what their mitigations had been. And I think based on that, like, my personal recommendation would be anything that scores a 3 or lower would be acceptable. And anything that scores a 4 or higher would not. But that's certainly open for discussion and interpretation. So I would,
Have we weighed these 3 events at all?
they have not been weighed in this yet, no. So we could do that. I don't know if there's anyone on who wants to speak to each of these events. I think spectators is the, is in the case of the 2 races in the ski jumping tournament. Is that going to be a spectator event? And then, I think the NMU race says no, or not no, but
Discouraged.
discouraged.
And so is the ski jump.
Ski jump is discouraged as well. So we could go ahead and put that in there and see what they do as far as numbers.
Oh, and I think that the main reason I supported Councilman Jason
Mhm.
was that if we're gonna implement this, this is the time.
Yep.
All 3.
So if let's just we'll start with the Ishpeming Ski Club. And Jim, I don't know if you can follow along and put it in there so that people can see how this works. But so I would just add a line and put Ishpeming ski jumping and cross-country race down there in line 20. And then the way, since I scored the rest of these, I would say people from out of town, I would probably put that in an orange. Crowd and spectators, if spectating is being discouraged, is a yellow. Bathrooms, they have their own restroom facilities for porta potties, so I would give that a yellow. There's no shared equipment, and they Are they having food vendors?
I thought it said if it was allowed.
I think it's questionable yet. And I don't know if they even have gone out to solicit at this point. Is Bob Hendrickson online or the,
They have their own vendors.
yeah.
Their own.
But Jim, is Bob Hendrickson on in the
Or
audience?
Kim Larson. one of
Kim is on.
Bob Hendrickson is,
Kim Larson.
Kim Larson.
So can we unmute and let one of them speak so that,
Can you hear me? This is Kim.
yes, we
Yep.
hear you, Kim.
So typically we don't have like an outside vendor. We just do like our own little concession stand of just drinks and like pasties or prepackaged food. And we haven't really decided because we didn't know what the rules were going to be by then, if we would do it or not.
Are we correct to understand that you've discouraged spectators?
More than likely, because we probably, I mean, with the state rules, we can't really have spectators. It hasn't been fully decided yet because we didn't really know what the rules were going to be by then.
Okay, so this form would come with the, you know, and any decision that we would make comes with the caveat that it has to be allowed by the state rules as well. So if it currently isn't allowed, then we would, I think we'd probably put that at a yellow. So I'm looking at Jim, I've got a orange for out of town, yellow for crowds and spectators, a yellow for bathrooms, and a yellow for vendors, giving, so that's 2 each for the yellows and 3 for the orange, which gives them a total score of 9. Everybody else think that's, does anybody else disagree with that assessment? Okay. And then if we go through their mitigations, there's no temperature or no test required, but there is a temperature check.
Yes.
Self-checks.
Okay. Self-checks.
So they're reporting to somebody when they get to the event?
Yep, there's a COVID waiver that they're supposed to sign that states that they have the temperature less than the required things and that they have no of the symptoms and things. I had attached that, I think, that I sent to you guys.
Okay, so I would call that that would include a temperature check and a questionnaire. And that also has all their contact information, correct?
Correct.
Okay, masks are required except for when actively competing.
Yep.
Social distancing,
Yep. They're supposed to.
and then and then group limit isn't maybe necessarily applicable, since they compete one at a time anyway, for the most part, right? Is there something that you're doing with the ski racing, with the cross-country races?
There would be a Nordic combined cross-country race associated with it, but they would not be a mass start like they normally would. With Nordic combined, it's based on your jumping anyway, so you're going off at staggered times.
Okay, so it's not a mass start, so I would call that a group limit. And spectators, we could probably leave open for now, but that by itself is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So that would give it, even without no spectators, a mitigation score of 12, which would put them at a -3.
I guess, just trying to understand the final, is the goal to be 0 or below?
Yes. Well, the goal, so when I looked at this, I think that maybe there's room for, in my mind, like looking at like trails, parks, trails, and outdoors winds up at a risk score of 3, basically, because there's not really much you can do to mitigate that. But that's an acceptable thing, and we've left parks and trails and so forth open. So kind of using that as the guide, anything else that theoretically scores a 3 or lower would then be acceptable by that same standard. So a 3 or below would be acceptable, a 4 or above would not. And I don't know how anyone else feels about that.
I think that's pretty fair. There's a lot of thought that went into how you did that, Lindsay. So I think that that's probably a pretty safe way for us to look at it.
They also, Your Honor, do the disinfecting with the bibs and everything. I think they're in good shape.
Okay. So, and even if we weren't going with a 3, if you look at the -3, they've got relatively low risk, you know, as far as crowds go. And, you know, not a whole lot else going on. I mean, really crowds are the big one. So,
Adding, like if they decided to serve food, is that?
and I put them as a yellow for vendors. If you bump that up to a, well, so they're already yellow, so they've already got 2 on that. Even if you put them at a red, high risk for a vendor, it would still, that would be another 3 points. It would still bring them back to a 0.
And it's all prepackaged. I mean, contact is almost non-existent, so.
Yeah, I think from a vendor standpoint, my thought on that was it has more to do with people congregating at the vendor location than the actual exchange of anything.
And if you're not preparing food, there's no congregating.
Mhm.
Take your product and go.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yep.
I think they're in good shape.
So
So I mean, you could even put the red in there right now.
and it would still,
And pre-approve it. Assuming you're gonna approve it based on the score.
mhm.
You can put the red in there now and put the score in as if the red were there so that they know, even if they serve food, they're still gonna be okay.
Mhm.
If they choose not to, their score would be better, but it wouldn't be unapprovable.
Right. Yeah, I think what would throw this into question numerically on this is if it went to being open to spectators and having food vendor, which I think you would theoretically would want to do if you have spectators. So spectating open to the public would I think put this in a different position.
But if you put it as a red, like what's the worst case scenario? right now?
Worst case
If you
would
put
be
that as a red,
red for crowds and spectators and red for vendors would put them at 10, 15. So if we move that to 15. So 15 with the current, with those things. However, the questionnaire, temp check and contact information in the context of where it is there is meant to be for everyone in attendance. So if you were collecting all of that information for the public coming, numerically, it would still be a 3, which by the standard that we sort of just talked about would still be acceptable.
so my opinion would be that you should possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then should they decide against the open spectators or the food, they're gonna be much better. And even if they chose those things, they're gonna be within our score range.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we've shown the worst case, should somebody check this.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Does anybody else have a thought on that or disagree with the assessment that we've given them?
No, I think that's the way to do it. It's fairly simple and it's consistent. That's the good part. We don't have to discuss it if everybody agrees that the system works. And I believe it does.
So any questions, Kim or Bob, based on the scoring as it's presented?
I don't have anything.
No,
I
I
would
think
just assume that, down the road as we get closer, you would want to know which direction it is as far as vendors and spectators.
Yes, that would be good. And as I said before, it has to fall within the state guidelines.
Correct.
Right.
And I guess
So I guess we're,
Motion,
Yeah.
motion on a.
all right.
event.
So-
We've got the motion.
Yep, there is a motion and it's been seconded. So, there's a motion to approve the Ishpeming Ski Club annual ski jumping tournament on March 5th and 7th. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, passes. Kim, if you could please keep us updated on the details of the event, that would be great.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. All right, next one is B, the Chamber of Commerce West End Winter Wonderland. Bob, I see Bob is on the line. Jim, if we could make another spot there in number 21 for Winter Wonderland. All right, so we've got people from out of town, and so I defined out of town as Marquette County. So I would, in my mind, I would put that as a yellow. I don't think too many people are coming from outside of Marquette County. I don't think it's intended to draw a whole lot of people from outside of Marquette County.
Correct.
Am I wrong, Bob?
That's correct. It'd be a local event.
Crowds and spectators. I'd probably put that as a red.
I,
Scenario, we draw a lot of people.
I believe that'd be a correct
Okay.
assessment.
All right. How about bathrooms? How are you working bathrooms, Bob?
The bathrooms, if it needed to, we'd be renting them and placing them near the current bathroom facilities.
Okay. Porta johns.
Yes.
No shared equipment. And then vendors.
Vendors would be participating business members, chamber members. Would I give it, an orange at least, or, or a medium?
If we did a worst case scenario and put it in there as a red, then we'd have 2 yellows and 2 reds, which would be a total score of 14. Bob, can you walk us through your mitigations?
So it would be a registration event. So we'd be collecting contact information. We would require a COVID questionnaire, which would be a simple, are you feeling sick today? Have you had a temperature taken today? So I don't know. I want to put temp check in that. I would just say that we're just going on people's faith that they are coming to the event not sick, which, it's hard to say in these days. We would require masks. And design things to be socially distant without, from out of family groups. However, I mean, with public events like this, it is a task. So I guess that use your discretion if you'd feel that would be. Group limits, it would be limited based on state guidelines at the time. And I guess there would be some potential for spectators at some points. Using what we're looking to do is do the Baby Lake Loop for snowshoeing and having like a cipher game like we did last year, where you find clues along the way, write them down on your own stuff, and then bring them in to a checkpoint. There wouldn't be shared pieces at that time. Everybody get their own paper and pencil and keep. And then we'd be using the tubing hill. And what we'd like to do is a cardboard classic, so that could draw spectators to it, which would have to be managed.
Let's see where they go here. So Jim, I've got questionnaire, contact information, masks, and social distancing checked in green. And you have group limits Is there a limit to the size if you're going around and doing the scavenger hunt, Bob? Is there a limit to the number of people that can go in a group together to do that?
We can designate that. Well, we're really encouraging family units to participate. So yeah, but otherwise it'd be like 6 or less or whatever at the recommend time that we could gather in those areas.
Okay. So if we put in group limits, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I've got a mitigation score of 10, which puts us at a 4.
Your Honor, can we just go back to the risk factors and make sure that I'm in agreement with what you have? I feel like I might have missed one here.
Vendors.
Yeah, so I have
Vendors.
a yellow for people from out of town, a red for crowds and spectators, a yellow for bathrooms, and a red for vendors.
Okay. Yellow and we have a red. Very good. Thank you.
Which gives a total score of 14.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And then I have a mitigation score of 10, which puts it at a 4 total.
Which should actually be in the red zone, right at the red zone.
Yep.
Okay.
One question I have that I think Bob addressed, but the strongly requesting family groups should give some leeway there. Because I know we've had this at the golf club and I know there's a lot of family participation, which would mitigate a pretty good chunk of it.
Well, looking at this, I mean, in my mind, you buy a quick temperature scanner gun and when people are filling out their thing, you.
Right.
could
Yeah.
With a hat on. If you added that, you'd be at 12 and it would put you at a total score of 2.
Okay. Yeah, and that would be, we could do that. So yeah, and then limiting groups. Well, we already got the group size limited. So yeah, okay. Temp checks.
I think they sell those things at Ace Hardware.
Yeah. So at this point, this is, like we're still, after walking through this is a very good tool to help us with its planning. And I think at this point, I mean, yeah, we'd like to move forward with the planning for the event. Granted that we'd still have, things improving and state regulations relaxing too, because I think at this point, until February 21st, we'd still be limited on participation events like this.
Yep. So yeah, so it is dependent on the state. Jason, were you gonna?
Yeah, I mean, by our numbers looking at it now, I mean, we're at a risk score of 2. And I mean, you even put in there, Bob, that you'll submit a final COVID-19 plan by March 3rd. So I think, with the preparation that you guys have put into this and the fact that we may end up having to revisit it again anyway, I would feel comfortable making a motion to approve this.
I'll support, but I'd like to take Councilman Chapman's, we may have to revisit it again out of the equation.
Well, I'm the only reason I said that is because he's submitting a final COVID-19 plan, and maybe it's not us revisiting it; it's the manager. But
well, and if with the COVID-19 plan, I would say we're done.
Yeah, so long as he doesn't remove any of the mitigations that we've put in here and he doesn't add any additional risks that aren't listed in here,
right,
then this is the plan. If the plan doesn't change, he can tweak the details of his plan, where he's going to fill out the questionnaire and whatnot. That's fine, but we don't need to revisit it because so long as nothing changes.
Yeah, I'm fair with that. Yeah, I understand.
Okay. All right. So there's a motion to approve the West End Winter Wonderland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 2.
number 20, it could be a ski race.
What?
There, I don't know, line 20,
Oh. Oh,
looks like a cross country.
ah. Yeah. Jim, can you just put cross-country ski race, can you add ski in there? So it's, sorry, on line 20, the Ishpeming cross-country race. Change that
See that.
to ski.
Got good eyes.
But that's the
That's the
ski
ski
jump.
jumps.
That's the Ishpeming Ski Club.
Ishpeming,
Ishpeming Ski Club 134th Annual.
just put ski jump. Yeah, that'll work.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
But then the next
good.
one- but
Good.
next one is
The next
cross-country
one
ski race.
is the
Yeah.
NMU ski race.
Yes.
Which, my understanding is that follows all the same protocol as the previous one that was held this past weekend. I don't know if there's anyone on who wants to speak to this event.
Is Sten on there, Jim?
I'm not seeing Sten, no.
I know that this weekend went well. I was parked on the ice nearby on Teal Lake, but talking to Tim, who has been talking to Sten, they didn't have very many spectators. You know, the discouraged spectators worked. All of the fencing and the controls were working. They kept all their equipment as they had projected in their plan, and they were actually a little relieved that Green Bay wasn't doing theirs this weekend, but that this one's picking up next weekend. But as far as I can tell, everything's in place. There's less work to do for this one because they left last weekend's stuff in place, so
Gotcha.
should be pretty good shape.
Okay,
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we move forward and approve Northern's request for 13th and 14th, we said.
yes.
Support.
Okay. And I'll just add that so on this, I would just copy all of the same risks and mitigations as their previous one, which, is line 14, which gives them an overall score of -5. So with that and motion, all those in favor of approving the NMU ski race for February 13th and 14th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And that concludes our special event applications. And just for future reference on this COVID matrix, because we will probably be revisiting this again. If there are other mitigations or other risks that anyone thinks should be added to this, we certainly can do that. Or if you find that there's some glaring error with it and you think we should revisit how it works, please let me know. Happy to, it's just kind of needed something, so I came up with it.
Good tool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on, number 11, contract renewal with Hydro Corp for cross connection control program.
So at the last meeting, we looked at whether or not there was any competition. I called firms to see if they know of any. GEI doesn't know of any other firms, and nothing local. This is even in Wisconsin. So I can't find another one that does this cross connect. This company is doing it all for us and by us. They're writing up our cross connects. They're keeping everything in check. They're writing the reports for people that don't show for their appointment. They get rescheduled. If they don't show up for the reschedule, they get disconnect letters that they send to us. We sign off on and get distributed back by these folks. And the coordination is wonderful. I see no reason why we shouldn't continue to do business with them, besides the fact I can't find anyone else to do business with. I think we just, we have a good partner and we should stick with them. Yes, this is part of our standard operating costs.
Was there any kind of an increase as far as the costs?
No, they kept this one the same.
Perfect. Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we have the city manager execute this agreement with HydroCorp and.
All right. All those in favor? Continuing. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, on to number 13. Schedule a workshop to discuss reporting process from city boards and commissions to council. Oh, I'm sorry. Apparently I just crossing off numbers like nobody's business. All right, number 12 is discuss request to purchase city property located at northwest corner of Lake Street and Division Street.
So this property, this past summer, was the old Andreacki shop and the property next to the old Andreacki shop were purchased. The one next to Andreacki's old shop was demoed. The Andreacki shop is being remodeled now. And then there's a small sliver between the one that was demoed and the corner of the road. And we've been storing snow is about all that the city's done. Several contractors in the past have used that for storage of things when they were doing work in that area. But there's not sufficient space to build a new business or a new home or anything in that area. And so it would likely go unused and be just a vacant lot. And it looks like these folks would like to add it to the size of their lot. And so so from my DPW's perspective, there's no loss with the snow control. They can still manage the snow control. And from the perspective of the city, we probably do pretty good by giving it to someone that can use it as part of their lot rather than trying to maintain it as a.
And it puts it right back on the tax roll.
Fire? Yeah.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion. I think that the offer they made was fair. I'll make a motion that we start the process. I don't know if we ever declared it surplus. But we'll have to have a public hearing, but I make the motion that we move forward and sell it to these people.
Support.
All right. All those in favor of moving forward with the sale of the property, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, now I can cross off number 12. Okay. So we will need to, what's that? Okay, so we can have a hearing at the next meeting? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for reminding me when I make missteps. I appreciate it. All right. Now, for the third time, I can cross off number 12. Moving on to number 13, scheduling workshop to discuss reporting process from city boards and commissions to council. And I can speak to this one. So we had started talking about this at the last meeting. Stu, you were not present. But we're looking to, I think, have better communication between boards and commissions and the council and get everyone literally and figuratively on the same page. So we had discussed the idea of having a workshop and bringing in the chairs of the boards and commissions to discuss the best way to report back to council. And I think, Craig, you were putting together a list of who those people were, or someone was putting together a list?
Well, I mean, I can. We pulled our list of all the boards and committees and then invite them.
Okay.
So, yeah. The challenge will be based on that quantity, whether or not we might have to do it Zoom.
Right.
Because of spacing and current COVID restrictions.
Mhm.
So it would likely be a Zoom meeting with the current capacity requirements.
Okay.
But I think that in today's age and a year into COVID, it's not hard for most to be able to jump on from somewhere and do that. We can certainly host a few if depending on, but I mean, just with this group alone added to that group,
Yeah. It's a big.
pretty quick, big group, so.
Yeah. So I thought, Kathy, did you have something you wanted to say? No, okay. So I thought that I had was to, I don't know if this would still include a workshop potentially to discuss this, but I wondered if having perhaps a form in lieu of just reading the minutes from each meeting, if someone, perhaps it's the board, or I'm sorry, the chair of the board, or I suppose it could be someone else on the board or commission, who might fill out a quick form that they could all be included in our monthly packets with some sort of high level summary information. And so I kind of did just a quick draft of what I thought maybe this might look like. And I made a bunch of copies of it. So I don't know if that's something that's amenable. Jason, I emailed this to you right before the meeting.
Looking at it as we speak.
Okay. And actually, if you want to pass that one over to Carolyn, she can look at it too. So this was just a quick thought. I mean, maybe it would still warrant a workshop with them, or perhaps we could just set it out and say someone needs to fill this out. But just running down, so filling out, which board or commission it is, who's completing the report, the date, time, meeting location, who's in attendance, noting the city council liaison in attendance, public, summary of any public comment, summary of meeting discussion topics, and then there's a list of describe any potential impacts to the citizens of Ishpeming, city staff, financial impacts to the city or citizens, potential diversity or equality impacts, potential legal impacts, and then any recommendations, requests, or questions to city council. But those would be informal requests or questions, I suppose, as opposed to looking for a recommendation or, sending something more formal back to us. But I feel like if we had one of these from every meeting, we'd have a pretty good handle on what was going on without, reading through minutes. Just quicker, more summary type document. I can do this on a fillable PDF, so it wouldn't need to be handwritten. It could be emailed back. Pretty standard one form. Everybody would use the same thing. Easy to email, easy to print. What others' thoughts are on this.
I think that would be adequate. It's not,
I do
it's
too.
communication. That's all it's about. It's not about somebody's not doing this or they should be doing that or criticism. It's about opening communication between, and until you look at this, you don't realize how many committees we have.
Yeah.
And so maybe we wouldn't even need to have a workshop. Maybe the council liaison who attends the meetings could take it to those. And if there isn't a council liaison, then perhaps we could just chat somewhat informally with whoever the Ishpeming representative is and ask them to complete this.
Need to add two more.
Okay.
Was, I don't know what commission or committee. Yeah, there's Mark Trent.
Mark Tran and 911 Commission.
Yeah. They're actually county meetings. But we appoint people.
Do you know who Mark Tran is? You're central dispatch, right?
Yeah.
Angela Bozio and
and forward to the server.
There's two, and I can't think of who the other one is. We appoint to their board.
So if I had a comment, I would say a little bit of expectation. You might have to have like a summary sheet of expectations for each of these blocks.
Okay.
So that everyone has the same understanding of expectation.
Mhm.
So you would have that discussion and dialogue in a work session. You might, if you're not going to do the work session, then like laying some how to fill this form out kind of ground
Right.
rules would be helpful.
Sure.
And then in a form fillable PDF.
The sample one.
Well, yeah, it'd be more than a sample. It'd be a little bit of a description of expectation. What is a council looking for
Mhm.
from that perspective? And then doing a form fillable PDF is great, but sometimes the character limits are the flaw,
Mhm.
right? So you have to kind of figure out what you would want, like draw one up for yourself is
Yeah.
like the biggest one you think you would draw out and then have enough characters. But at some point, somebody's just got to be smart at wordsmithing.
Mhm.
But those become the draws or the drawbacks to
Yeah.
form fillable PDFs, which I love them. I think they're great. I think it helps. But someone's going to inevitably say, wow, I had to truncate it so much that it doesn't make sense anymore.
Mhm.
And at that point, if somebody has to truncate it or something, then they should feel like they need to get online and be ready to talk about it in case there's questions in the council meeting.
Mhm.
And then maybe the expectation is that audience participation grows, that they're available to answer questions, but maybe they don't have to brief something
Right.
because they filled out the form. But what if the council has dialogue and there's no one there on the other end?
Mhm.
So I guess setting the expectation of having.
Especially if they.
Well, right, no, right, especially
It's all-
like, maybe if they fill it out and there's NA, then you don't have to be present. But if
Mhm.
you fill out one of these key areas, somebody's gonna be there to discuss it. And
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to figure out where that balance sits so that you don't have an empty audience and you're looking for information. Because then you're not done yourself any good, you just drawn more questions.
Mhm.
No need for a workshop. This is fine.
Okay. How does anyone else feel about that? So I'll work up some instructions to go along with it.
Yeah.
Do you want to email it out to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that would be fine.
They look solid.
Okay.
Email to us.
To who?
To council?
I mean, no,
God,
right, but who are we
Yeah.
emailing that to? Board members that do the meeting?
Cindy, you're on the committee.
The chairperson?
Yeah.
The committee chairperson. Once you've written your instructions and have them laid out as complete, then we'll do the distro to the committee.
Okay. Sounds good.
That's like, and we'll figure out who they are for each. We think it's the chairperson. But Kathy, you look nervous.
No, I just, no.
Is
fine.
that what you were asking?
I didn't know who you wanted this sent to, like planning commission. Are you gonna send it to Al to get it to the person on the board? Or are we sending it directly to the chairs of everybody? Because there's staff people that are on.
No, not the chair. Cindy Fair.
But not all of them have city reps.
Yeah. I would think it would go to, everything to staff to give to,
To the person at the
yeah,
committee.
yeah.
Well, we have to be consistent. We can't lead with 3 people saying this, that, and the other thing. We have to
I
be
just want to know
consistent.
who you wanted.
It should, because there's not a staff person on every committee either.
Exactly.
What if we just send it to the chair of every
Every
committee?
chair- every
The
committee
chair
should have
of
a chair.
Every committee, yeah. Okay. All right,
I would,
so I will send it to you.
I would say that maybe it would be wise to have just a letter from the mayor,
Mhm.
the cover letter that goes with it. Like,
Yes.
hey, this is.
Yeah.
As the mayor and
Yeah.
your committee supports myself and the council, we ask that you support us with this new endeavor. And then we will mail the letter with the form and
doesn't-
instructions.
It doesn't have to be completed by the chair.
No,
They can complete it however they
but
want.
they, but
anybody
it can
is
give
fine.
it, they can,
But
the
it-
The
chair can
be
delegate.
responsible to see that
Yes.
it's put into
Yes.
action.
Right, but
Yes.
at some point, we have to make sure that we have a clear email or some way of transmitting. If it's gonna be a form fillable PDF, it's useless if I hand them a hard copy.
Yeah.
So I've gotta make sure that we have a good communication tool there too.
I fully send it to the chair of Park Track. Send it to our reps. What was your?
Well, I think that maybe in the instructions, it could ask if there is a city representative, that it could be them who completes it.
Well, as an example, the Solid Waste Authority, there's someone that's assigned on behalf of Ishpeming to be the Ishpeming rep,
Right.
but there's nobody from Ishpeming that's the Ishpeming rep. If you give it to the chair of the committee or board, and you give them a letter from the mayor with some instruction as to what you're looking for in return, it's appropriate for the mayor to the chairperson to have that communication. And then the chairperson would say, hey, you know what, you're the city rep for Ishpeming, complete this and respond. Or they may say, no, you know what, the mayor sent this to me, I'll take care of it.
Mhm.
But we don't have to choose that for the
Yeah.
board. Let
No.
the board choose that.
I don't care who fills it out, as long as somebody fills it out.
Right, but a mayor sending a message to the chairperson of the board is very appropriate. I don't think that's an inappropriate act.
And it's not an afternoon of work or something. It's one little form.
Yeah, that was the idea, was let's make this as easy as possible. for
My
people
guess
to-
is that we're ahead of all the other cities and they're gonna start using our template to hit every city with the same thing. Hey, change the name, protect the innocent. It's no longer, we're sending this to Ishpeming. Let's send it to all the towns that we represent, especially the Solid Waste Authority. They hit everybody in Marquette.
Mhm.
You know, they could use this format.
And there
And they
is,
may, and some other city may say, hey, we'd like to really see this. And at some point it becomes a dynamic thing that they actually give us more.
I wonder how many municipalities, that's the first time they heard from the waste management was the increase for the deficit they. Haven't heard a thing from them for 2 years and now we're gonna pay for $400,000 deficit. This is something that's continual, you know what's going on.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
it Wouldn't have come as a surprise, because we would have,
This is us putting our feet down a little bit and saying we want to know what's going on.
yep, okay, so I will tweak it a little bit. Does anybody have anything that they want to add or change on this? Otherwise, I'll reformat it, but I'm gonna go with what's on here.
I think we're gonna probably have to let this live for 6 months and then reevaluate what kind of input we're getting.
Okay,
I
sounds
mean, I
good.
think you're gonna start seeing input and say, wow, that's not really what I was hoping for.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So I will write a letter and a set of instructions that will just go with the form. All right,
So then I'm understanding you, Ms. Mayor, to say that the scheduled workshop has been taken off
yes.
with the change that we're going to send out a letter from yourself with a form and instructions to each of the board chairs.
Yes, unless anyone has an issue
Right
with
on-
that.
Right on the money.
Okay. Then that's what we'll do. We don't need a motion for that, do we? Okay. Right. Then I will cross off number 13. So moving on to number 14, confirm policy number 601, council rules and procedures policy.
Is an annual requirement that council is required to do each year. This is the time of year we do this one. So the question is, do you have any concerns, issues, or changes that are not covered already?
Your Honor, I have one foremost in my mind as we struck the Pledge of Allegiance. And that's not acceptable to me personally. I know that we do it at different times. We haven't been doing it with what I assumed was because we've been Zoom, which is not really a reason to not do it. But I think that anytime we have a formal meeting, I think that personally, I believe that we should be doing it. And I'm not adverse to starting to do it for Zoom meetings. That being said, I think this document should be disposed of. Because, and I said this when we were elected 2 years ago, this is redundant of the Open Meetings Act, the Ishpeming City Charter, and Robert's Rules of Order. There's nothing in here that I read that I go, holy man, I never knew that that was there. It's all the same stuff that when I was on council before, those are all things that we did. Now, is it maybe a tool for a new council person? But I don't think we should be doing it every year and calling it a rule book. But I won't vote in favor of it with the striking of the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
So why was the Pledge of Allegiance taken out?
You remember, Stu, why this was brought? What drove it?
Is it,
Project by Bobby, the attorney. I think he is.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we dispose of the City of Ishpeming, Michigan City Council Rules of Procedure that is presented on this day, February 3rd, 2021. It's not needed.
Can I throw in a suggestion?
sure.
Wait till the motion is approved. Yeah.
I'll second for this.
There's a place.
Is your microphone on?
Oh. There it goes. There's a place for some sort of a document that embodies the rules that this council has enacted that aren't in those other sources that you cited. Public comment springs to mind. You've got 3 different places on your agenda that have different rules for public comment. And that does, I don't think that's gathered anywhere other than here.
Well, it's gathered in minutes.
But to ask anyone to go through the minutes to try and determine what the council's rules are, it's difficult. Not only that, but a procedural item like that would only last until the new council is formed. So when new council is elected, you need to reenact your rules. So at least some local rules, the things that aren't in the Open Meetings Act, that aren't in the charter, whatever, I would recommend you consider. That might only take half a page.
And I would be agreeable to that, but I found somewhere in here that made me think that there's no justification to do this. It said something to the effect of some cities choose to, or something like that.
This looks like a document that was put on the Municipal League website some time ago and modified. I think a lot of councils found it convenient to sort of compile something, especially for new council members, so that instead of having to read the open and learn all that stuff, it was a tool. The problem with that is that sometimes when you restate a rule that's written someplace else, you don't get it very exact. And sometimes the original is better. But that's the history of it. You know, and all this stuff about, I mean, the first 2 pages is sort of, some of it is in the charter, about conflicts of interest and things like that. When you get over to conduct of meetings, you know, if there are certain components you want on every agenda, things like that, those are your local rules that you look at and probably should re-examine from time to time. Do we still want this list of topics on our agenda? You know, do we want to change it? Do we like public comment the way it is? Is it working? Things like that. So I throw that out because that is the only thing that isn't somewhere else.
And I agree with you that I looked at the public comment, the second one, and we voted at a council meeting. It's recorded in the minutes and it was added to the agenda. To me, that makes it official. And if it came up to a question, well, why is that on there? Would be the only time anybody'd even refer to it.
My
And
question,
either be look it up or I make a motion, we drop the second public comment. I mean, it's council business, eh? We have enough.
I guess my question on this one is if this is an easy enough document to read that follows along our procedures, maybe it is something that we should just keep. It's not doing anything other than being a guide for the council to follow in a pretty easily spelled out way. So I guess I don't know if I'm really for just scrapping it.
We follow it, Jason?
Sometimes.
Yeah, that's my point as well.
Well, maybe we could do a better job of following it.
We could.
Do we adopt Robert's rules of order?
And we do it officially.
Well, I don't see any great reason to get rid of this.
I don't either.
Who did the markup? Who decided what was being struck and?
So I asked to have the Pledge of Allegiance struck because it wasn't consistent with, we weren't doing it because of the Zoom meetings and because we don't do it during special meetings. And I don't like saying under God.
And I guess I was one of them that was okay with striking the pledge for the context of what Lindsay just spoke
Private
about.
meeting that I missed? Because nobody asked me if I'd let it be taken out.
Well, it sounds like you're being given an option to say something now, but I
completely respect that.
Okay.
I think
I'll never vote to take the Pledge of Allegiance out of a formal meeting when we've got our flags here.
I don't think it's meaning any disrespect towards anything. I think we're looking at it in a way that's probably putting a fence in an area where there shouldn't. And I guess that's where I'm at too. I don't know. I don't feel like we're disrespecting anybody by not doing it, but.
So Jason, having served 27 years in the military, I'm offended. And I agree with Pat's comment that you're not obligated to say under God.
Nobody's obligated to do the pledge.
No, you just stand there in respect for
And I respect that person's right.
But
Jason, you worked at the state level for legislators, union support from all over the place, and every one of those groups says the Pledge of Allegiance before a meeting starts.
Pat, I'm not looking to argue on this, and I'm only backing up Mayor Bean on this as to why, and you can be offended, I guess, if you want, but it's not something that we should be having an argument over. Lindsay had a pretty good reason for it. I supported that idea. Does that mean we don't respect the country? Does that mean we don't respect those people? No, because that's not necessarily what the pledge is about. But I don't feel strong either way. I just don't want us to have to force somebody to say something they're not comfortable saying either.
So could we just keep it in there and?
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy. I'm-
Something, don't say it.
Yep, I'm perfectly happy to add that.
Yeah, and I don't care either. This was just,
That's
this isn't,
Okay, good.
And I
I'm glad.
appreciate it.
And I did not mean any disrespect.
Neither did I. And I want to make sure, my dad's a veteran and I'm
That being said, Your Honor,
all support it.
if I may,
Mhm.
we have a motion on the floor to dispose of it. I am willing to, I would like to amend it to try and clean it up.
Okay.
Because as the attorney said, I have no problem with a couple of pages that's a guide for council, especially for new council people. But, and I don't know who would ever have the time to do it, but the redundancy of quoting the charter and quoting Robert's rules, I think a lot of that could be eliminated. And then at least it would be a valuable tool. So I would amend the motion to have it reduced in size. To direct the manager to have it reduced in size.
Okay. And adding the Pledge of Allegiance back in.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
And
glad-
let's,
glad
if we can, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance either at, every meeting or at just every monthly meeting. That way we are being consistent.
Every regular meeting? Okay,
That's the way it's been for as long as I know.
all right. All right, so all those,
Kathy doesn't
So are
question that.
all the other changes approved? Or you had made the,
We're gonna reduce it, take out all the
So the
redundancy
only-
that we can.
The motion is simply that I'm directed to redraft it for another round of consideration. With the pledge going back in and removing redundancy.
I guess I'm not
I
sure.
guess, do we need a motion, or are you just directing me to take it back to the table?
Well, if it has to be approved by council annually, I think the motion is in order to.
But you're not approving anything, you're telling me go back and rewrite it.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen it rewritten.
I'm fine either way.
Yeah,
Well, you haven't seen it rewritten, so how can you approve what I haven't done yet?
Well, we're not disapproving it,
Right, so I'm saying it comes back to you for re-review.
right?
So then you don't need a motion, they're saying we're not gonna take action on it.
That's good with the
Then
minutes. good with
direct
me.
the city manager back to the drawing board. Crappy job, Mr. City Manager, on this one. Got it.
All
I'll
right.
take that hit.
okay,
We'll figure it out.
back to the drawing board. All right, that moves us on from number 14 to number 15. Number 15 is confirm management negotiating team members. So this is basically in 2019. That was when, I don't even remember if it was before Carl was mayor. Anyway, Carl Lehman and I were appointed the negotiating team members
For the council.
for the council. And then Carl couldn't go, and so Pat went. And so it's been Pat and I since then. And since that was a council decision as to who that was, and it has been Pat and I consistently for this time, like to look at confirming new members or maintaining the same, but at council approval. I would be happy to trade out a spot.
I would be happy to serve on this, Lindsay.
Okay, does anybody else want to?
I would let somebody else jump in there without a question.
Okay.
And that we have to clarify, and this would be a good one to add to this rule book. When I was on council terms ago, I made the motion because the manager at the time, we kept getting conflicting reports of what was happening at the table. And I made a motion that from then on, we had 2 council people as observers, not negotiators. All they do is sit in the negotiations, pay attention, take some notes. Certainly when you break or caucus, then you can chat with the manager, whoever the negotiating team is, but it's not to sit and be active at the table. So we need to clarify that.
Okay. I think that's been clarified then. Thank you, Pat.
And I, from the perspective of the city manager, I concur with that, because I think the intent is for management and employees to sit at a table and then take it back to, I have to take it back to the council, and they have to take it back to their union for those determinations of accept or not accept. But I operate on behalf of you with my team of staff. And Pat's point is, you want to make sure that what you're getting back to the council is what the council is interpreting going on.
It could be as simple of, that's not what I understood, Craig.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I thought during a council closed session. It's not a big deal, but it's nice to have.
Okay. So Jason is interested. Is anyone else?
Would you even be able to get time?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I don't, these things happen during the day.
You can hardly get off for your union position yourself. If you would want to split the second,
Okay.
and maybe when Stu's feeling better, if he wanted to come in. But I'll be glad to help.
Okay. All right. So can we
A
say
life
it's
is
the,
enough.
can we say it's the three of us and we'll delegate who goes to where? Okay.
That said, the first meeting is tomorrow.
Well, I think Lindsay
So make sure
decided
we
that
have
you
that.
and I were gonna do the first two to set up, or
If Jason would prefer to go, I am not opposed to
okay.
not.
When,
going.
when is it?
The first one is at 9:30 tomorrow morning.
Let me check and see if I can move something. And talk to you post meeting.
Okay. And then the second one is next Tuesday at 1:30. So Tuesday the 9th at 1:30.
That I can do for sure. I don't know if I can do tomorrow morning.
Okay, or ask me and poem next week.
And tomorrow's and subsequent future until it starts to break apart is to focus on all three ASME union together on those articles that are the same. They may not be in one agreement, it might be Article 1, and another it might be Article 3, but they both say sick leave. So where those things are the same, or should be the same, we're gonna have all three unions together discussing them. So what we're trying to do is create a base document, and then where there's separation or segmentation because of differences in the way the union is broken out, then we would have individual union discussions following that.
All
So
right.
the three members are Pat, Lindsay,
Jason.
and Jason. But
And-
not all at the same time.
No,
You're just.
Two at a
Yep.
time.
2 at a time. Yep. Okay. All right. So I think that confirms that. Then moving on to number 16, establish a committee to review water and sewer rates. So we had discussed doing this as kind of a workshop as the entire council. I'm not sure that we necessarily need the entire council, that we could have a couple of people who would meet and review that and then report back. Is there any thoughts on that? Is anybody chomping at the bit to be part of that?
I will also volunteer for that because it's an issue that comes up in every conversation I have with residents in the city that our bills are too high. So yes, I will volunteer for that.
Well, I have a thought on that. I think initially there's gonna, especially with the discussion of where we are on existing, we just finished a sewer project. We've got an open grant that hasn't been awarded yet for a water project for drinking water. We have a proposal coming for another sewer project, and we have an ongoing meter project that we're executing. I think it's really important that you all come and see how rates affect each one of those plans. And that you can't get the grant unless you show where your rates are. You can't, you have your dollars amounts of the grants are affected by a little tweak in this, in the way in which you apply those numbers. And I think the GEI is going to lay that out for you and show you, and they have a tool that, if you ask me a question about this rate, I'll change it right here. And then boom, now you can see the impact of that rate. And it makes a lot of sense for all of you to at least see that the first time. A subsequent meeting about whether or not there's some decisions to make or heading in the direction, I think you can garner that as a group and then say sends one or two of you forward as a committee. But I think initially the discussion of where we're at on a couple of these things, it might be wise for all of you to at least hear it together and then give direction to whoever you decide to set up as a committee panel or however.
Your Honor, I guess in my mind, the reason I support everybody being together is, to be brutally honest, what are you doing about the rates of water and sewer in this city? We're paying him to do that. And I think it's our position to say, well, he knows what he's gonna do. But to put it on his door that says, sit down with us and tell us what we're doing. What's going on? What's gonna change? What's not gonna change? What might get better? Then, just like Craig said, then go forward and say, we gotta go to the water authority and get prices down or whatever. But I think the first and best thing is for whole council to sit down and say, here's how it works.
I agree with Pat on this one.
All right. So when should we do that?
So the good news, I think everybody is flexible. So I know Councilmember Furby's schedule is harder than others to get through during the day. I don't think there's an opposition to doing the evening kind of thing for that.
It's probably the most important thing on the table right now.
Okay.
So.
Well, no, and I think that it's convenient for us to make a modification. I can just work schedule for a day, and this is when we're going to do this. Our contractors have been willing to sit in on any of the council member meetings. Brian's on here right now, and I think GEI is really engaging with us to partner and be able to share what, how this all ties together. They've been in the last sewer one. They've been into the current water meter rates. They're looking at the new sewer rates. I can bring in UPEA, who's been working on the drinking water portion. And I think it's not a problem to have an evening meeting so that everybody can participate in those. So, I mean, you pick a night, pick a time and let us know.
Yeah, any meeting like of this size, I think should be at night so the public can, pay attention to. This is a big one.
What's that, Stu?
17th.
Of February?
That works.
Yeah.
7 p.m.
Yep.
Brian, since you're on the February 17th at 7 p.m. work for GEI?
That works for us as of now, yeah.
Now, the other question. Are we going to call this a workshop, Caroline, or? Well, if it's a special meeting, it's a public meeting, we gotta follow all the rules. If we call it a workshop.
Our meetings are public, nor a workshop, but
No, I mean, it's a public meeting, it's structured. But in a workshop, you can't take action, as I understand.
So let's let our attorney answer the question.
No, Pat's got it right that you can have a meeting where the idea is to share information, facts, not for the council to make decisions. And that sort of a thing is typically called a workshop to make it plain it's not a regular meeting. And you can do that without having an open public meeting. However, you can't, the deliberate on decisions at that meeting. So you can't, people can throw out ideas, but you can't get to the point where you're actually discussing changes you want to make and that sort of thing. That goes in an open public.
And the reason I say that is we don't want that. We'll be here for 10 hours.
Right, but what they can walk out and give me direction. Based on the information we heard, we want the city manager to work in this direction. Or not.
Council can't do that unless they do that.
And at this meeting, that's what I'm saying. We don't want that. We don't want to take further action. We want to suck it in. It's public is fine. I don't care if people want to come and sit. But we don't want to, Jason and I don't want to start arguing over this, that, or the other thing. That's not acceptable during a work session because
It's fact finding.
I don't want to argue with you anyway, Pat. So
We need to have that public discussion from Pine Bend Beach. If we public be.
see, I don't think you have to do that. That's the whole reason to not do it.
So if it's a regular open public meeting, or comment is appropriate, minutes are appropriate. Have to have minutes of a workshop session, because you're not gonna take any action, there's nothing to write down. Right? And that's the difference, so you don't need public comment because there aren't any proposals on the table. It's an informational session. You're hearing from your expert city staff, engineers and accountants and everybody about how come the rates are the way they are. After that, if I understand Pat's proposal, after that, once everybody understands how it works, then you're gonna say, what can we do about it? And you're gonna say, hey, Craig, come back to us with some proposals. But at that point, now you're considering proposals, you're looking at potential council action. Whether you do in the end or don't, doesn't matter. It's if you're thinking about maybe taking council action, that you need to be at an open public meeting with the discussion at that meeting.
And the way I see it during that meeting, the only person that's going to be writing is you writing your individual notes.
Yep.
Kathy doesn't have to take minutes.
If he was have it discuss other stuff, but when talk to you or you, it has to be public. Yeah, we could have a workshop or use a presentation, right? Use a presentation. I don't want that kind of meeting. I want to be able to discuss what we find out from them. Otherwise, we feel no relief.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, Stu. I'm just saying we got to do it, or I'd like to do it in two venues. One is you collect all that stuff, digest it, and then we have a meeting. And well, remember, Brian told us this, or that one told us that. I've been thinking, maybe we could do that. Now you're working as a council.
It's not a special meeting. We'll open yourself up. I will be here.
I got to go with the attorneys, Stu.
She and I agree.
I agree with both of you.
So it's just the difference of, do we want to have the public there? Do we want to have notes? Do we want to be able to have discussion? Or do we just want to show up and take notes and go home?
Let me see if, I think I'm hearing both of you, and I think that there's two ideas here. Let me see if because I want to make sure I'm understanding, because I'm the one that's going to have to bring back the meeting, right? So what I think Pat is saying is, get me NIWA, get me GEI, get me UPEA, get me Jim, and get me Craig in a room. And everybody give me what you know. So NIWA, tell me about your water rates. Why are they set the way they are? Why are we this rate and Nagani's this rate? And you can ask those questions and you can get that information, but all you're doing is asking informational questions. You're asking the question you're getting the answers you want to know. Why is this rate this way? Why is Ishpeming this way? Why is Nagani that way? Why is whatever? then GEI, hey, GEI, talk about the last sewer project and how the rates affected that. And what's this new project? What are we proposing? And how do water rates affect that? And, you know, is there any impact from the metering that's going on to our water rates? Because there's a paragraph in our grant that says you can't change the rates without going back and talking to the folks that gave you that grant. And so there's some grant language that might impact. And so you're collecting all that information in a work session. And I tell you what, that's going to take a little while to sit there and just digest and get these people to give you information. And then you come back and you say,
public to hear this.
I'm not saying we can't have public.
the public can be on the line. It's just not run as a public meeting. It's run as a work session.
I'm not saying we block anybody out.
They can collect that information the same way you're collecting the information. The next meeting, the one that you
It just
want,
doesn't get bogged
is
down in
going
us
to be
arguing about
bogged
it.
down with topics and decisions.
You're doing a subject here that out of 5 of us, we got a thimble full of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. We're gonna get an awful lot.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna discuss and beat up everything like we're doing about the meeting,
Yeah.
we're gonna be here, might as well plan it for 6 a.m.
So I think if the public is invited, I mean, I think this would be a very good thing for the public to watch. However, if it gets bogged down in our discussion and the whole thing takes 8 hours, that's not going to be super productive either. So I'm in favor of having a fact finding, tell us what you know, I'll take notes and we'll talk about it later.
Same. I think we go with that, with what Pat's saying for this one, because this is an issue that's going to take more than one meeting anyway. So let's go with the informational meeting. And then after we've had some, chance to take a look at everything, then come back with an actual public meeting.
And you can set that public meeting as a special meeting solely on water with components that you want to address. I want to address the NIAWA rate schedule. I want to address the GEI plan for the next sewer rate. I want to address what UPEA has proposed with the drinking water management asset plan. And you can propose those as topics with discussion and decision.
But I don't think it is in violation of Open Meetings Act. I think, why wouldn't you come if it's a workshop and it's, lots of places have workshops.
What do you think we're trying to hide?
What are you trying to hide?
Absolutely nothing.
We're trying to just not,
They
We're
can
just-
zoom in because then you've got public that wants to be involved. You're gonna give them discussion. So maybe there's 50 people that want to pop on and complain.
You have to obey law.
No.
You do.
In a work session, you do not.
No, you don't.
And in a work session, you can
I'll tell
provide
you what.
information without decision.
He and him for sure will have something to say.
but then you just won't be able to.
We'll have something to say.
Then you just won't be able to. You'll have to save it for a meeting.
You'll have to say it in the form of a question.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I'll have to bite my tongue. I'm the first one to admit that.
You're gonna have to say it in the form of a question. Could you give me more information about that? I would like to know more. Could you explain that a little further? But you can't get in an argument about it. You can ask those things and collect it as information and still be a work session.
You know what this helps on this at all, but kind of usually have a heavy copy of a meeting of any kind is defined as the convening of a public body at which a quorum is present for the purpose of deliberating toward or rendering a decision on a public policy.
So if we're not looking
not
to
doing
make
that.
a decision, we're not doing that. So it's not a meeting.
Right.
That it is a fact-finding mission.
Well, exploring facts, fact-finding implies decisions made on facts, which you're not. But are you allowed to have the public present and listening in? That's up to you. Absolutely. You might, I mean, I don't, because I don't know how big this meeting can be, I don't know if it's appropriate, but, you know, some people might say, well, the public could text questions and, you know, through Zoom, you know, and we might be able to look at any questions that haven't been asked yet and ask them of the people who are there, something like that. But yeah, you can have a meeting, it isn't a meeting, a gathering to get information.
I think Marquette is having one on, I think I saw housing costs.
Mhm.
They just saw it on Facebook. They said, bring your questions, send your questions.
And normally I would agree with that, but we have to keep it condensed somewhat. And the priority of questions should
Yeah.
come from council.
So, I mean, it was, as Carolyn just described, you know, if you had a question that was aimed at them that was, I suppose, maybe not otherwise answered. Yeah, but it's not for deliberation of a decision. Stu, that doesn't meet your,
No, I don't need just a presentation of what was discussed. What us to be able to discuss.
And we can't do that in two settings, to you. Well, I'm standing firm on the workshop idea. We've been kicking this can down the road.
Yep.
a lot. And when I found out that Nagani gets a better water rate than Ishpeming does,
yep.
those are, what happened there, Stu? With all the terms you got, how did that ever come to be?
Water authority was formed after me.
Oh, you are old. Wow.
All right, so are we gonna go with a workshop then? Do we need a motion to set a workshop? We just decide a work session? Jason, you wanted a work session?
I'm good with a work session because this is going to take more than one meeting. So yeah, I think a work session is good for the first one.
Yes.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Okay. We're going to set a work session.
17.
So I
17th.
got 17th to 7 PM workshop. And my intent is to have Iowa representatives, GEI, UPEA, our financial director and myself talking about water.
And could we plan a 7 to 10 window?
Sure.
Well, I'm gonna give each of those reps a time to speak. And then I can give you a period at which you can ask questions of each, and then we move on to the next one to keep it on target.
Sounds good.
And somebody will be knowledgeable on the meters, the new meters, and the radio meters, and
Knowledgeable to what extent? I might have to call in Core and Main. So you talking about water rates, or are you talking about
Well,
installing meters? I'm just trying to make sure.
installing the new meters, water leaks.
Okay.
The question came up, well, a meter can, how was it stated for one of our residents, water can leak, but it doesn't get recorded or something, and then it corrects itself. For one of the complaints, they said, well, yeah, it might leak during this period of time, but it doesn't show up until after the next click of the meter. Questions like that.
I will see if I can get a Core and Main rep on.
Okay.
And again, we'll hit the topics that we think are informational, get you on target on things. And if I miss the mark on something, we can come back with another workshop, or we can come back with another meeting to hit that topic. Say, hey, you know what? You brought me 6. I really want to work on it. I want to work on all of them, but I want to work on it in this priority, and we'll come back and have a meeting, open meeting back, and have discussion and dialogue on them.
Okay.
I think it's, at least we're moving in the right direction of discussing it, right? And getting it out in the open.
Okay. All right, so that checks off number 16. So that puts us to old business. Jason, do you have any old business?
No, just like we got a snowstorm coming. Let's knock this one out of the park, guys.
So because he brought it up, Jason, I'm sorry you're not here. I printed it right before I came up, but we have a National Weather Service message. And it says that from 10 a.m. on the 4th to 7 a.m. on the 5th, we're expecting a wet, heavy snow, total accumulation of 5 to 9 inches, lesser amounts near the immediate Lake Superior shoreline. When I watched Carl Bonack yesterday, it looked as if a lot of it is going to swing low of us, the way the low pressure is coming in and pushing the weather down away from us. So west of us and then south of us is going to get more snow, but we're close to the Lake Superior shoreline where it says less accumulation near the Lake Superior shoreline. I don't know where we're going to fall. We're going to fall anywhere from 3 to 10 inches, I guess. We are watching it. My DPW are working really hard to make sure that they have a plan, and we are going to get after it. But you know, we're sticking to our guns on the plan. It's working. It's not what everybody's been used to. But it is working. But we are working to refine each storm and improve each storm. So
Thankfully,
the
it's over
Sanders
3
are
inches.
getting out, but it's going to be over the 3 inches. Should be on the 4 inches and above, which puts into nighttime operations. So
I use heat weather. Low pressure area goes to keyword. So and this one is going to keyword.
okay, well then we'll get the snow and our guys will be
We're gonna
out.
get dumped
All
on.
right.
Let's just get it done right. Yeah.
The point was that we're tracking the storm and our guys are planning
Okay.
the effort tomorrow for tomorrow night into Friday and into Saturday, whatever needs to happen. We're working on that plan right now.
Sounds good. Hopefully we get a lot of snow. Stu, do you have any old business? Is?
No.
Pat?
I have old business regarding our prestigious attorney. I did the bills a couple of weeks ago and it looked like you were forgetting to turn in your pay. There was a bunch of them there. And that kind of reminded me that we used to get, and I thought we were doing it again, like a report of activity for the attorney. So we should get that,
Yeah.
if you would.
And I'm looking at different formats, you know, it's the sort of thing that, you can see it was proposed to remove the attorney report at the end of the council meeting.
Right.
The reason that most of the things that are going on, just can't really speak to
Exactly.
in public. But getting you some kind of an idea, at least some of the major things that are happening in a short format that can be
Confidential, could be destroyed.
Mhm.
That would be great.
Yes.
That was the only old business I had.
And I have no old business. How about new business? Jason, do you have any new business?
I don't.
Stu? Liz? No. Pat?
I have one issue with our cross-connection contract. And going back to, what was the last one we did? Garbage. Are these being reviewed by the attorney? And are we, like, we've got this contract, and that's why I asked, did the price change? Is the attorney or somebody looking to make sure nothing else changed?
On this one, the answer is no. On the garbage, the answer is yes.
It was checked?
Yes, and
Okay.
and we came back and we have, under my new business, there is one thing that they requested a change on the garbage.
Oh, okay. I'll let you cover that. That answers my question. The other issue on the garbage is, have we ever discussed the containers? You know, where the trucks grab them and townships are getting them now. Nagani's got them, Nagani Township. Have we discussed that and did we get a cost?
So we have had minimal discussion, but some discussion. What Negaunee did and Negaunee Township did, they went out for a grant when it came available, and that grant happened about the time I was coming on board last year. And the grant had a cost to each of the residents in addition to the grant money. North Country doesn't care what you put it in, as long as you put it in a container that's marked recycle. All of our rates are already in question. Do we want to add a $20 cost?
Oh, that's the answer.
$20 cost in addition to a grant to have residents get one of these special containers. And then the North Country has to then see whether they want to invest in the fleet that changes. They just bought new trucks and they don't have that capability on it. So I think it's wise right now as we discuss rates and things, we can look at grants in the future for that. But North Country's been very conveniently accepting of anything marked recycle and emptying it into their truck.
Yeah.
And at the cost that they were paying for them, I got some rough costs from Nick Leach on what they did. It was still charging back to the resident about $20 a container, even after the grant. So I didn't think that was in our best interest right now.
And I agree.
But I didn't. That was early on in my last year. So I mean, I haven't looked at it recently to see if anything's changed, and I haven't talked to North Country to ask them recently about whether or not they would be switching their trucks over or not. But,
that's a good answer.
But they do have two sections. The back of the truck right now has two sections, right? They don't have anything that grabs from the front to even do that. They'd have to change their fleet, is my understanding. And then that's a cost. And you know, where does that cost go? Right back to our taxpayers, because they have to cover those trucks. So I think that's a great idea in the future, but I think right now it just means rates that we don't know what that pass along is going to be, and we've got enough to figure out on our plate. So that's where I'm at. That's where Craig is at. Right? I haven't brought that to you because I haven't seen the value yet. To you.
Yeah, that's plenty of information. Thank you. That's all you're on.
I didn't ask you if you had any old business.
So I'm going to call all my new business for the sake of, because some of it kind of goes back and forth. But first, under old business, since we just talked trash, there was one change in the contract. You approved continuation of the last contract. The one change that we've noticed is that they have requested that they be able to start earlier in the morning. They have to be at the landfill no later than 2:30 in order to tip on that day. And in order, they've been pushing their time window of getting there in time to be able to tip. So right now, I think our contract is 7 to 10, and they're asking to be able to pick up as early as 5:30. And I don't see any issue with that, but you have to decide whether or not somebody can make a noise. Right now in the winter, we plow in the middle of the night, and those beep beep beeps of any of our loaders are making noise all hours of the night. And their machine doesn't make any beep, beep, beep noise. It's just driving right past you, maybe rev an engine up or run the machine to crunch the trash once in a while. But
5:30 in the summer, without your garbage, that before the animals will be killed.
Everybody puts it out the night before anyway.
Well, I don't know.
I don't in summer.
Well, everybody by me does.
Well, that's a decision the council's got to make. You've approved the extension of the contract as it was written, and it was written at 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. They're not doing past the 3 p.m. They're trying to get to the landfill by 2:30 every day, and they're asking to be able to start at 5:30. So I just need a decision as to whether or not I can.
I thought we always said 6 o'clock to our residents.
The ordinance, the garbage ordinance says to have your garbage out by 6, so I think that would probably need.
Yeah, perfect.
So we could say 6.
We'll come back and say 6 and be done with it.
Yeah.
I'll just put 6 in there.
Was I right again?
Garbage ordinance and Jim, just checking to make sure Ken's not online. I don't think I had planned for him to be online, but if you see Ken online.
I do not, no.
So I'll bring that to Ken. I don't think it's gonna be a problem. Just call it 6 based on our ordinance.
Tell them we're not changing the ordinance.
Right, yeah. But I wanted to make sure because said no change. You guys agreed to no change. So to the snow plan, just an update. It's more of an informational thing. It's no decision to be made, but I have drafted a 5-page outline of what I think a snow control plan should be. And we're working all things maps right now. I'll let you look at this as an example of some of the mapping we're doing. But what we're doing right now, capturing maps, is we're capturing snow route priorities. We're capturing whether it's a plow, whether it's a sander, whether it's a sidewalk plow, where do we store snow, where do we haul snow to, what parking lots do we clear, and all things snow. And then I'm working on like being able to understand what the rate of salt should be for different conditions. I mean, they're all standardized things out there. We just don't use them. But trying to capture all that. We're also then putting that into our pub work system as well. So we're building the plan, but we're also building the maps into our pub work so that we can track all these things. So you'll be able to see how many miles of road we're controlling, how many miles of sidewalk we're controlling, and how much we're spreading and doing and where those things are, and it'll be visible. So at some point we can actually post the snow control plan onto our webpage and people can see exactly what we've decided we're doing. So as we build this document, and it won't be before this year is over for snow, but it'll be before the next year starts for snow. As we build that, we'll have your input on areas to make sure that's what you want, that there's nothing missed, and that it's now communicable to the community so they know what to expect going forward. But finding maps has been near impossible for me. So that's an example of one of our products that is coming from our snow control plan. Another piece of old business. This room, you can hear some echoing right now. The intent is to get to some sound deadening panels in order to manage this echo. We could just throw panels on the wall and hope it works, or we can go with an engineered design for panels that we know is going to work and is tested acoustically against this equipment. I recommend that we make sure that it's going to work and it's tested against our equipment and we manage it. Anything below the table level is not helping in any way. So it's table level and up. We've got a dry erase board that's going over here in the corner. We have 2 more TVs planned to go in here. So you see the wall space shrinking, which puts our panels up or higher up in here. They could make the panels look like, so behind the screen will be potentially a collage of City of Ishpeming pictures, or it could be just a collage of different size panels with different colors. It's a matter of custom or not custom. We're like over here on the back of the wall, we could have City of Ishpeming Operations Center and Council Chambers written right on the sound panel and have it look like a nice sign, but have it be a deadening panel. Or we could just put some panels up. There is some cost difference to this.
Yeah. What's on drapes?
So drapes would help across the window, yes. And so there's some things that we can do. But there is a cost to doing the right engineering. So a cost of just panels without any pictures, without any customizing of the panels, we're looking about just shy of $8,000 to manage the sound in here from echoing and all the things that we can do. If you look at customizable panels and customizing everything, you're at almost $14,000. Or we can say, we don't care that they're engineered and tested against this equipment. We're going to do our best guess to put some up there and just try to find some panels that help deaden the sound and hope that we do okay. But like we could be all over the map, right? We didn't project how much the echo is going to be, but we've taken the time to make this room really nice. And even if we just didn't do the custom panels, I think it's smart to make sure it's optimized with our equipment. And, you know, we gave them a picture layout of the walls, and they've actually engineered where these things should sit. They do cut cardboard cutouts, make sure they're there, and they cover up that space, and they order them correctly, and then we place them there. So anyway, I just need some direction. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to just buy panels and put them up? Do you want me to go with, you know, all in custom nice panels, and we got some collages of Ishpeming pictures and it looks real pretty? Or do you want to just go with some non-customized but still engineered panels?
I think that
I have some questions.
Sure.
So this whole thing happened before I was on council, but from my understanding, the majority of the cost for this entire renovation was through grant, right?
So no, nothing was grant. What we had was the state rescinded some of our normal state funding
Okay.
and replaced it with federal COVID dollars, and then earmarked it for emergency operations only. So we made sure that this was set up to be also used as an emergency operations center. So should we have a national emergency or some major disaster in our area, we could in fact set up an emergency operations center and run the emergency from this facility. Using emergency management dollars under COVID from the federal government, we put together an estimate, and we came in over estimate, not by much, but over estimate as to what we planned and what we've gotten. The sound deadening panels were not included in that process of planning.
Okay. So then my next question is just what are we at this point over what the initial estimate was?
I didn't hear the question.
Have we spent over what the initial estimate was so far?
Yes. So we spent $4,000 on lighting over, because we were supposed to move the track lighting up to cover the equipment, and the cost to move the track lighting up was not too significant, but it was really more cost effective to go to LED and give us better lighting and getting all the track lighting out of the way of the equipment. And so that came in at 4,000 over. Everything else has been on target or just a little bit below.
Okay, so total just $4,000
Just
over.
really close to 4,000 over, yep.
Okay.
we didn't have the cost of the carpeting, did we?
The cost of the carpeting was not in, but we rolled it over under the, yeah, so you're right, carpeting was 5,000, so we're at 9,000, sorry, thank you, carpeting. But the carpeting was not able to be seen because we thought it went under the cabinets. And then we cut the cabinets out and the carpeting was cut.
And
Yes,
we had.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, sorry, that carpeting was.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Your Honor, and this is kind of what I was gonna do during my report, but it fits very, very nicely here. I unfortunately gotta take the devil's advocate position here. We've spent a ton of money in the last 8 months, 9 months. And I think we need to stop, including we can live with the echo for 6 months. With COVID, it's not a big deal. But I would like to see us get the pub works implemented, which you've got going live, the text.
Yep.
I think we just need to take a break and start bringing all this. I think it's all good. I was in favor of all of it and I haven't changed. But I think we need to take a break and bring all this stuff in and get the ball rolling again. Just a thought, but that was what I had for my report. So I think it's a good time to bring it up.
I'm in agreement with you, Pat.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. The echo is, since the carpet was put in, it's substantially better than it was. It's not terrible.
It's not terrible. I'm not having a problem hearing the major echo come across.
And I think as we have more people eventually coming back in, people will help. So we'll see where we come. I think we could revisit this at a later date.
It's fine, that's direction.
People have drapes for their cumulative, yeah, behind with drapes.
Yeah. I think we just leave the whole thing alone for a while. See where we get to.
Fine with that.
Okay,
Fine, I
Bring it-
just
bring it
want
back
to,
up in
I
6
just want to
months.
make sure you
Yep.
understand what's, what.
And it's a good point.
could be,
Mhm.
but-
Absolutely, but I
Yeah.
think we
But
need to.
I wasn't prepared to execute any of that without asking you.
Yep.
So the last one is, let's talk Public Works. Public Works has accepted all of our maps. We've got all of our, well, we're still building the maps for snow plan, but we have the underground infrastructure, the fire hydrants, every water stop, every water line. All of those things are in a map, but we don't have actually access to the maps right now because we have to pick up the mapping tool. And then my guys could modify that map if they go out to a water stop and they look at the ground and it's not there and it's 10 feet that way, they could modify it with an app. We didn't purchase either of those at this point. Yeah, PubWorks is not active at this moment, but those maps are gonna be critical to, Donnie came in and said, hey, I gotta go find a water stop, I can't find it. My guys come in all the time, I'm trying to locate a line, and I've got the GIS shape file from our engineers in the mapping system. It only makes sense to give them access to the map, which is we'd have to buy the app or buy the app and or the maps. The maps are more critical than the app. The app is going to give us more functionality over time.
What are we talking here money-wise?
So that's what I'm getting at. So the maps are $2,900. It's $2,500 plus the annual service maintenance and initial training. And then the app is $2,900, $2,500 plus maintenance and initial training. So question is, do we go ahead and do it or not do this? I mean, yeah,
Is that
it's,
his dog? Jason, is that your dog?
Yes, that's my dog.
so anyway, I absolutely think that the $2,900 for the maps is critical. I think everything we need, everything we're doing in this thing
Well,
needs the maps.
We're
The app
talking,
is separate,
we're talking $6,000 for the maps and the app, right?
just under, yeah.
What do we got tied up for MacBooks, for the tough books?
I'm trying to remember that number. 10. For the
Personally,
three-
I'd rather see us move that money to the app and the maps because we're putting the cart ahead of the horse. They'll have the 2 computers that they can use to adjust the maps and to enter the data, but it's not there yet.
Well, so those 2 of those computers were for the mechanics. They've got no computers whatsoever to do any of their fleet management.
Okay.
yeah. I think
And-
that computers are critical. You need the computer in order to do it.
Yeah.
I would think if, like you said, the maps are critical, but the app could wait. Because the app makes it more useful out in the field probably,
Right.
but maybe we're not quite there yet. So
Right.
but the maps make sense, but you gotta have the computer still.
Yeah, but without the app, the maps don't.
No, they're
The app is
independent.
for
The
apps.
apps, the apps allow every DPW worker to go around and make some modifications and see
Okay,
it.
I got you.
But I have an iPad already for the DPW workers. I have a DPW foreman laptop that can go around with them. And they don't need an app. They can just look at the software as long as they can access the web with those 2 things, and they can. The 2 tough books, the 1 tough book was for the foreman. 2 tough books are for the mechanics. 2 of the 3 mechanics need to be able to plug in, hey, I just did oil, I did this on this, and plug in all the things they're doing to manage fleet, plus they're tracking all of the fuel usage and all that, making sure the gas has been started. So number 1, I think we need the maps, $2,900. The apps, I think we can wait, similar to this, like let's get going on some things and come back and say the apps in the future. But the maps, I mean, Donnie should be able to walk out there with an iPad or something and say, wow, it should be right there. There's the stop and be able to do that. Fire department should know where their fire hydrants are and be able to see them on their computers. The police all have computers. They'll be able to see all those maps. So anybody that has a computer now can still see it with this app because they just have to be able to touch the cloud.
Well, right now, our fire department has it on their phones. They've got everything. They know where the hydrants are. That's all mapped.
Well, yes, but
for
they
DPW.
can, but they can update that, because right now they don't know which type of fire hydrant is in which location. They can pull into the one that has the valve on it, or they can find out that the map says, nope, this one says it has a valve on it, but doesn't. And so they've got some with valves, some without. They may or may not be marked correctly, but now they can see it and say, yep, that needs to be corrected in the system.
Well, and I understood they didn't have that. Jason Analog.
We've got a mapping system, and we're matching those two systems together right now.
Yo.
Maybe better than what we have now.
Is your system for the hydrants and that, doesn't that tell you everything, the size of the water line and?
Not the size of the water line, just the gallon flow.
Oh, very good.
And we're working to take what he has for mapping and match it to the GIS.
Oh, okay, good.
And those two will mesh
Not
together,
reinventing.
and the data will match. So he's got GIS files based on a fire hydrant, and the GIS shapefile from the water stuff has a shapefile, and those should match up. But where they don't, we'll have to be able to go out and physically match that up with a map on an app or on a computer.
So, Your Honor, in the interest of time here, can I make a motion to purchase the maps not to exceed $3,000?
Or,
All right, I'll
one
vote.
question, where is the money coming from?
That'll come out of the DPW maintenance and motor pool fund. It's tied. We did all that, all of Pub Works we tied back to that motor pool under fleet management.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Hey,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
It's all my new business, Your Honor.
okay. My new business is mostly informational also. So in June, Pat and I, well, I guess at the onset of Craig's arrival as manager, Pat and I were assigned at the time to be the liaisons for goals and objectives and evaluations. And so we have done that. And we began looking at the manager's annual evaluation since he has been here for a year, or just coming up on a year.
No, today is my first day of my second year.
Ah,
no,
all right.
good.
So.
Happy anniversary to me.
So we're officially in year 2. And so Pat and I began looking at evaluating, doing a performance evaluation for him a couple of weeks ago, and decided that it made most sense to have all of council's input equally into this. I know that when we had done this before, there was some concern about, or when we did the 6-month, there was some concern about comments and scores and where's the comments for these or whatnot. And so we worked on taking that evaluation and broadening it just a little bit. So I have finished sort of formatting that. I've been on apparently a large forms kick. Ask anyone that I work with, I actually really like making forms. So there is a manager evaluation form that I will be emailing to everyone that you can score him on his goals and objectives. I'm going to also send the goals and objectives sheet, which has all of the goals and objectives that we all agreed on that he's been working towards this year. And I'm also going to send his self-evaluation where he describes a lot of the work that he has done. So I'm going to email that to everyone. If you would email it back to me when it is complete, I would really like to get that back within a week. I'm already probably going to exceed the extension that I had told you we would have, but I feel like we're doing a better job and everything's been a bit of a learning experience. So I do feel like this will be a good step forward in having a better, more formalized evaluation for you at the completion of your first year.
And what you'll see, if I might, is I would recommend doing the goals and objectives list that you'll send first. Go over that, then you'll understand what we expect. Then you can look at what he said he did by the goals and objectives and digest that. And then you can go to the third one and fill it in with your comments. And it seems like it's extensive. it'll kind of blow you away, but it's a great plan to me. When you get done, there isn't much that you haven't considered and thought about.
And I do, I've included on the bottom, so there are some performance areas you'll see, and then I've included in the bottom just for consideration, performance areas to add next year or for this year. And the only reason they aren't included in this one is because they're all covered in your existing goals and objectives. So we can work to
Reestablish the next year.
reestablish that, yep.
Yep.
Mhm. Yep.
And so we should be working on that now,
Mhm.
and that's an independent action from the others, unless you're hoping to garner something from that evaluation. So,
Yeah, no, I think that.
I mean,
we
as
should-
I take it as they don't change until you change them.
Yeah.
And so there's still a lot of it that remains the same.
Yes, and some of them, I
But
think.
there's still some targets you want to put on the wall.
Yeah, and when we look at some of those, and when you all look at those, you'll see that some of them were maybe larger tasks, or the whole year has been a bit of a learning curve, right? And so some things weren't necessarily done to completion through no fault of your own, there just wasn't any way that was gonna happen. So
And COVID
in COVID, yep. So,
affected it
yeah,
lots.
so I think we'll return the evaluation. We'll get that evaluation back to you, and then once that happens, then I think we can reestablish decide which goals stay, which get changed. In all fairness, I think we should probably have adapted your objectives and goals at the 6-month evaluation, knowing that some of those were pretty lofty at that point. There was a pretty good understanding of that. So we'll do a better job with that this year.
Well, and to your credit, you had nothing before this year.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I introduced you to a system that you're learning and then you're developing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the good news is we're developing in a forward direction. We're not going backwards. So.
Yep.
Good
Yep.
system.
Yep. So I will send it out in an email probably tomorrow. So you all will look for that. And if I could get that back from you in a week, that would be fantastic. All right. So I think that concludes new business. So we're back to public comment. If anyone would like to provide public comment through Zoom, if you can raise your hand, you would have 3 minutes to provide public comment. I don't know, Jim, do we have other people still on?
We do. I do not see any hands going up.
Okay. Again, if you would like to provide public comment, you've got 3 minutes, just raise your hand.
Still no hands.
Okay. Last call, last chance, going once, going twice. All right, moving on to number 20, mayor and council reports. Diz, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I don't really have much. I attended the school board meeting via Zoom and the library board meeting via Zoom. Not much going on for either. The library is working towards steps for reopening a plan for having people in person again, but that has still yet to be determined. And
Jason?
Nothing right now.
Stu?
Just like to say, I went to Mayo Clinic for a week. They said I have a speech disorder, functional speech disorder. Will eventually be turned to normal, unfortunately for you. So I am in speech therapy once a week online with Mayo Clinic.
I actually missed you while you were gone. I'm glad you're back.
He actually said that. He wants you to argue with him, not me. So
Leaving. Yeah, phone was committee, me by Zoom on meeting in March. And the housing commission, me by phone. So I have been doing the phone meetings. So I am.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you back.
Good.
Well, I hear improvement, so keep up the good work.
Good.
All right, Pat.
I did mine already, but stop the spending and see how it's going. That's all I have.
Okay. So I do actually have some. So we had the my Great Ishpeming meeting that I attended. We didn't do a whole lot because yeah, we're just not doing a whole lot at the moment. It was a lot of updating about things. Lots of good stuff happening. It's just happening slowly, I guess. And then on Monday, I attended the Planning Commission meeting. And so as we had requested, the marijuana ordinance went back to them. It required some clarification that we weren't looking for a recommendation on whether or not to stay opted out, but as to how to move forward. And once we got that cleared up, we actually had a really good, pretty positive discussion on that. And we established a committee that is going to begin working on that. And we will probably be looking for Carolyn's input as well. But there are 4 people on the committee. And there was a lot of good discussion that went on around it, that, you know, that we've had enough time to watch how other communities have done this, and a lot of the fears that people had have not come to fruition. And one of the other committee members said that we sort of owe it to the city to look at a way to allow this to happen, because there are some benefits to it. And so, and it was a voter referendum as well that overwhelmingly passed. So, so I feel pretty good about that. I believe that our motion requested that we had a plan by the March meeting, and there's no way that that's going to happen. But I assure you that it is in the works. It is moving. I don't know exactly what the time frame will be for that, but there will be something coming. So
I think I saw that Forsyth adopted an ordinance today.
Yep. So, so yeah, so it is moving forward. Gotta feel pretty good about it. That's what I have. Craig.
All right, so quickly, the ice rink is being used and it's popular. People are really excited. It's not much, but they're getting out there and riding. I stopped and saw, it says sunrise to sunset, and people were there when I was riding in the dark, and one family was closing up and 2 girls were getting out to go play with the sticks. And I just asked them how they are enjoying it, and they thought it was great. And, you know, so we'll keep that going. We'll try to clean it up once the snow falls. Text My Gov is going to go live. Well, it's technically live right now, but we're publishing it. And we decided the best way to publish it is to do a mailer through bulk mail. So we went to Globe, they gave us some price quotes. They ordered the paper and they're gonna send it out. So every household in Ishpeming should soon get a bulk mailer so that they can see what it is. It clearly shows there's 2 numbers and what they do. And so hopefully we'll start seeing that. The test group, the people that I invited outside of our group, have all thought it looked great and was useful. So some positive comments from that. There is probably likely going to be another special meeting. I need to look at purchasing a loader for the spring. There's a 7-week time on some of the stuff that goes with it. We got our estimates from Case yesterday. We were supposed to have gotten our estimates from CAT today. Spending money locally on local businesses, those are our 2. But right now, one of the contenders is coming in and taking away 3 pieces of bad stuff and giving us pretty good rate on it of about $53,000 in their trade. And then they're offering a lease term. They would go up to 6 years, but they could do 3, 4, or 5, or 6. 6 years changed the rate. 3, 4, and 5, the rate's the same. So we're doing some amortization tables to figure out what those would cost. We're waiting on the cat. I don't know what the cat prices are, so I can't really talk to those. But the lease term even takes the trade. Well, we expect that, but we're not sure. But the lease trade, they're taking that trade as the first year's payment. So there would be no payment for the first year on the case. So that's a way of talking. So now it's like, hey, there's another opportunity when we talk to other dealers about stuff. Hey, if you take our trade, take it as a first year payment and then lease out. So we're looking at all kinds of things, but the thought is that with this loader, we don't need a bucket. We need to make sure they have the ACE coupler, whether it's case or whether it's cat. That ACE coupler has to be the key component that allows us to interchange the things that we already have. We have an extra bucket right now, even after the trade. So we've got a lot of equipment sitting around that we're just not using. And so by doing that, we swap out the need for a bucket. We get a broom, and it's a nice, I think it's like 10-foot rolling broom. And now we can use the loader to help clean up the streets rather than just the slow crawl behind collector in the spring. And we're already starting to make plans to use that and in the spring get a cleaning plan followed by a painting plan, because we haven't been doing the painting piece of putting stripes down. So we're looking at the holistic approach to things, but there'll probably be a special meeting to order a loader. But that's part of our plan of that $200,000 of new equipment this year. They're working on mowers and pickup trucks next. There's 2 tandem trucks that are going to probably be available at the County Road Commission. And talking to the road commissioner and their main maintenance guy, it looks like we might have first right of refusal to pick up those trucks at a really low rate. They're their 10-year removal plan, so they're 10 years old. One might need a turbo something, so we might end up paying to have a guy go look at them and make sure they're good and whether or not it's worth the investment. But they may be willing to take our backhoe on as a trade towards one of them and really low price on the other. So maybe I'll get 2.
Their equipment before.
Yeah, no, and their equipment is better than ours. Even the old stuff is better than our oldest stuff. And so, we're looking at the platform of being able to take the stuff off the frame, put our Salter on the new frame and get rid of our Salter. And if they take the backhoe and trade, then we might not have much to pay, but we're working with the road commission. They're going to help us with that. They're also working with Derek to train him on how to do the auction and the bidding, and even participating with us to say, oh, well, here's how we do it, but here's what you should be looking for, and kind of training them through that. And so it becomes a tool in our kit later. So nothing's definitive yet, but I think we'll have some ideas of things to purchase here again soon. But if there's a 7-week timeline to order the broom and things, and I wait until after the March meeting, we could, the way the weather's been, we could have an early spring and we could be out cleaning the roads and not be able to do it because we're waiting too long for that broom. So I think that might have to come up sooner than the March council meeting. Taco Bell, we just finished all of our site reviews. We think they're coming down pretty soon. So that was supposed to go back today. Working little things between Taco Bell and the hotel. And, there's the way that's built, and that it was previously owned by one owner, and now it's 2 owners and 2 lots. The entranceway has been a sticking point for a lot of things. Like, when you're tearing up all this road, how do I get in? Well, we made it so you have to have a passable lane to allow the hotel, but the hotel is still, I want more. So we're working those details, but they are 2 separate parcels with rights of way. So we're working through that, but I think Taco Bell is looking really promising. Waiting to hear from Invest UP, but there is a company that is looking at Marquette County and Dickinson County. And of the Marquette County, I think they're really looking at the Ishpeming Nagani area and looking at our Shopco as a way, as a location for a manufacturing plant that could bring up 250 jobs. So we're in the running still. We haven't heard that we're not. They're hoping that they have a decision real soon. So hopefully I have some good news for us. But if not, it's the first time we've been looked at for a while. And partnering with UP, Invest UP is a new partnership that we haven't had. So trying to work with Amy to get along and kind of grow that partnership and keep her looking for opportunity in our town. So we've been getting, Carrie Meyer's been helping us with graduation rates and things that are important to businesses that are looking in the area. So, and then lastly, I have 3 internal candidates for the foreman. So we're going to be working on some scoring criteria and interviews coming up real soon to get that finalized and etched in stone. So.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Carolyn, do you have anything?
Nothing on the attorney's part.
Okay. All right.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Hey, it's not Iz's fault that we're here 4 hours today.
Yeah, I talked to her before the meeting.